Welcome to the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast, where we equipped you to more effectively lead your seat at any employer, business, or industry in which you choose to play. Each week, we help you sharpen your leadership acumen by cracking open the playbooks of dynamic leaders who are doing big things in their professional endeavors. And now your host, leadership tactics and organizational development expert, Karen Farrell Rhodes.
Hello, my superstars. This is Karen, and welcome back to another episode of the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast. We are so pleased to have on today's show a very dear friend of mine, Thomas Barnette, who is the CEO and founder, CEO and founder of Impaxion Consulting. And I'm going to let him talk about it in just a moment. But just to give you a taste, it's a human capital firm that offers a variety of strategic human capital interventions and consulting for companies of all sizes. And some things that they offer are like executive coaching, leadership development, DI consulting. He also is a fabulous keynote speaker. I know when you all listen to him, you're going to be wanting to find him on LinkedIn and reach out because he is just tremendous. But he is well renowned in especially the leadership and facilitator communities, of which, of course, I try to thrive and know who are the big players there. But he's had many, many clients that are renowned that you may know, such as the Bear Corporation, Meta, General Electric, and United Airlines, amongst a very few. And because we are friends, I can personally vouch that he is the real deal on so many levels, as you're about to find out. But I can't wait for Thomas to share with us some of his perspectives on leadership development and actually leadership execution, functioning in the best way and showing up as your best self in order to impact positive change and influence. So welcome to the show, Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Karen. And you said earlier where you try to thrive in leadership development, you're not trying, you're doing it, okay? So there's no trying, you're
There's no
doing it.
trying in leadership development, right?
You are doing it. I'm trying to be more like you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I'm trying to keep up with you, but yeah, we're going to keep each
Well,
other honest, right?
exactly.
Well, that is fantastic. Well, before we get started, as you know, we always love to learn just a little bit more about our guests. So, for as much as you feel comfortable, would you mind giving our listeners just a sneak peek into your life outside of work?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, I am originally from Fort Valley, Georgia, which is not far from where you grew up as well. We're both good old country folks. And so my mother was a music and English teacher. She had her master's in music from Fort Valley State University. So my three older sisters and I were required to sing, play piano, and one other instrument. So I started singing when I was 4 years old, rolling around on the floor during choir rehearsal while my mother was playing the piano for the choir. I started playing piano when I was probably 7 or 8, trumpet when I was maybe 10. And so music has been a huge part of my life. I actually wrote and recorded an album
I don't
and
think
did
I
a
knew
CD
that.
release concert. I know. I know you didn't know
Oh, you
that.
snuck one in on me. Okay.
You can actually find the album under my name on iTunes and on YouTube.
Oh,
So
I'm writing
yeah,
this
there are
down.
some things out there, and I love singing. I've coached many people in performance and singing, been a vocal coach. In addition to coaching executives, I've worked with them on how to speak, how to project their voices, the rise and fall, a lot of the things that people aren't taught when it comes to being able to utilize their voices. I've been able to do that from my singing and vocal coaching as well. So, and I love to perform. I actually was one of the performers as a dancer because I also have a dance background. You didn't know that either. During the Olympic opening ceremonies in 1996. So, yeah.
Wow.
So I hold some things in my pocket there to share with you all today.
You pulled that one out on me. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, I'm gonna be like going back and looking pictures, looking to find you. I'm going
Yeah,
to find your
yeah,
album, all of that.
yes.
Wonderful. What a well-rounded life you have, because that was one you snuck up in on me, but you have so many activities and adventures that you do, and it's just so admirable. So
Thank you.
definitely after this
Yeah,
podcast, we're gonna have to huddle.
yeah. Look, I tell you, I'm a product of my mother, Susie Pearl,
Susie
who,
girl.
good old Susie Pearl. My mother passed away in March 20th of 2020. She was 91, so she was 39 when she had me.
Wow.
So I grew up, with her, and a lot of who I am as a person and what I do was a reflection of what she wanted to make sure that all of her children and all of the children she taught had that kind of larger perspective of who you are, what you're capable of doing, and just do your best. And so I got that from her,
She
without
did
a
an
doubt.
excellent job
Thank
because
you.
you're
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. She's so proud. I know.
Yes. Yes.
From above
Yes.
now, but I know she was so proud of you, watching
Yeah.
you over the years. So
Yeah.
kudos to you, Thomas. And it's hard
Kudos
to
to
pull one
her.
over on me, but you got me. You got me on that. Well, let's kind of transition a little bit, and maybe if you can give us just a high level overview of the big moments in your career thus far, and then follow up by sharing more with us about what compelled you to found Impaction and the type
Yeah.
and what types of work and services do you all offer?
Okay. So, yeah, my journey has always been around people, what is their purpose, and the process to achieve that purpose. Those have always been, I call it, the three P's. And my passion has always been connected to that. I've always wanted to be a person that had an impact, a positive impact in people's lives, and give them knowledge or information, disseminate it to them in a way that they use it. So, not just hear it, but actually do something about it, have a desire to do something about it, and then give them the skills to practice doing something about it.
Nice.
I will go back to when I was in, elementary school and I wanted a band. And so I taught my cousins how to play instruments before we were in the band so that I could have my own band.
Look at you making your own reality,
So
right? Recruiting
this was,
family members.
yeah, like fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade. So it's always been a part of me. And as I went to college and majored in industrial engineering, it it's still the same thing when you look at how to create environments where people can be more successful or more efficient in the work that they do. And a part of that too for me was also how can people do their best work through efficiencies, but also through processes. So I've always had that analytical side, but I've also had a very creative side as well. And blending those two together is what led me into leadership development, employee engagement. And in the 90s, when I first started working, really when we were first thinking about inclusion and how to really put that at the forefront, leadership and conversations and hiring practices and who's getting promoted. I grew up in a household full of women because my father died when I was 6 months old. So speaking up for women in the workplace was easy. When people would say, can we put a certain person who was a female who had just gotten married on a project? And I was like, you can't say that.
No, no,
That's not
right?
that's not right in the
Yeah.
90s. Well, is she going to have a baby soon? Those kinds of conversations really happening in my
People
presence.
may not
And I was
realize
like,
it, but they really did happen, and in some places, they are still happening,
they're still
unfortunately.
happening. And
Yeah,
I know that too because someone shared a story with me recently of that same conversation. And it threw, I was like, are you kidding me? We're still having these same conversations that we were
yeah,
having in the 90s. So I've always been a champion for people who had unique abilities and qualities and characteristics, and women in general, and then for anyone else that wasn't getting the representation that they deserved. So when it came to DEI work, that was a very natural progression for me. along with leadership development, because really great leadership is understanding how to put those principles into
In
action.
place.
Yes, so
Absolutely.
it's all worked well, beautifully for me. And then coaching as a part of it to help people dial into where they have gaps in
Yeah,
their leadership ability. So, really being able to look at them individually, meet them where they are, create that safe space, and give them an opportunity to learn and practice without judgment. That's what I think really helps leaders to develop into more than just the title.
that's
And
right.
so, your last question about impaction, which is spelled Empaxion, I knew that God wanted me to do something to connect other people to an idea that we could all work in and thrive from together. So, this
Together.
isn't me, this was God. So, one day I was running on the treadmill about 5 years ago before my mother passed. I was like, what is this name that you want me to use for this business? And as I was running, I was thinking about, well, what are the words that are important? Well, compassion, empathy, impact, all of it. And I heard God say impaction and spelled it. And as I'm running, I had to pull up my phone and stop the treadmill and spell
To
it
write it
out
down?
the way. Yes, yeah, I did. And when I saw it, I knew that was it. So it is about empathy, compassion, and empowerment of all people in the workplace and in their lives. That's what Impaction represents.
And I know you offer a variety of offerings and services based on where the clients are, but do you mostly cater to companies and businesses or individuals?
Both, really, because I believe that you have to be able to focus on both. People are still people. A lot of work has been done to create space, but then there's been a lot of work where that space hasn't been recognized or understood or respected or valued. And a lot of times it's individuals who aren't connected to what it is that they should know. So I love working with individuals. I love working with companies, large or small. And I love working with individuals within the company to help them align to the mission and the vision of the organization. Many times when they look at their mission and vision statements, the words are there, they just forget them or they don't know how to put them into
That's
practice.
right.
So if you can start with leadership and with some employees, depending on where they are and their ability to have influence, all of it's, important to me. So
Absolutely.
Impaction was created to help bring levels of other people that can also have their passion to do this work, to understand it, to connect with it, because I can't do it all. And I don't want to.
But they all need your services, though. I know you can't do it
Yes.
all, but
Yeah, so
gee
I want
whiz.
and connecting with you and your organization and being able to have that connection because we are all working with each other. At least we should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Thomas, maybe if you look over the trends over the past, I don't know, 12 to 18 to 24 months, if there was a leadership development genie, like Aladdin and the genie lamp, and you had one wish that you would want all companies to be able to do or adopt, or a piece of advice for them that they had to get done, what would that one wish be? What is missing in today's workplace as it relates to leadership development? I know there's many,
I
but if you had one wish,
yeah,
what would it be?
I would say what I'm trying to find the words to say the thought in my head. I have an
Okay.
idea. It's a fact because that's how people have operated. So when you know better, you do better.
Yeah,
Leaders are not a title. It may be a title, but we've got to stop separating working with people from the idea that because we are working with them. If you're a leader, you're working with people. No one is working for you.
that's
So the
right.
idea that anyone is working for you, I think needs to go away. People are working for themselves. They're working for the betterment of their lives and let them have ownership. That's where the empowerment comes in. So I would want to get rid of the idea that leaders are titles and really give them the tools to help them connect to themselves. There's three aspects. How do you see yourself? How do you connect to yourself? How do you see and connect to other people? And then how do other people see and connect to you?
To you.
So
Yeah.
bringing that to the forefront of leaders, helping
Mhm.
them to be coaches and mentors for their team, depending on what people need, so
Yeah.
that the title doesn't get in the way of their ability to work human to human. The
That's right.
title is just a level of responsibility that they bring
Right.
to their job, whatever it is that they've been laid out to do, their responsibility. But it's
Right.
their responsibility. And from that place, leaders are all of those things and give them support in order to do that. They can't
Love.
just do it alone. They need the support within their organization and
Yeah.
outside of their organization as a coach. That's one of the things that I can help them do is they need a place to vent too.
They
They need a
do.
coach. They need a coach and a mentor. So this
Yes.
idea becomes so much more of where we're all operating within the same concept and levels rather than these separated ideas of who we are. I think that's the one thing that I would want to change.
I love that. And, that's one of the reasons why my firm did the research study on leadership execution, because what you exactly shared just a few minutes ago, this has been a quagmire of companies for probably 100 years, right? And they still haven't cracked the code on it. And I had a hint or an inclination when we commissioned the study, but the study proved just what you're saying, that it's not just enough to just do skill development. They also need the support. And that's the missing piece that a lot of companies miss out on, is providing the right type and adequate support for leaders at all levels
Yeah.
to perform at their best. And they just haven't been able to figure out how to do that. Are you seeing the same thing, or am I just
No, without a doubt, yes. To answer your question, no, you're not missing the mark. Yes, I am seeing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Just had a conversation a month ago with a company who said that they were struggling to get people to step up into leadership positions for that very reason because they didn't see the leaders being having the support they needed to be great leaders and they thought, well, I don't want that. I don't even care about the money. I don't
No,
want the headache. So
they don't
they're
want the
missing
extra.
great opportunities because they don't have enough support for the leaders to be the kinds of leaders that they need to be. That was brought up in our meeting directly by them. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I know you had a plethora of offerings and advice to give them. We won't go into that, but they had the right one in the meeting to share.
Yes.
So, in your opinion, well, you know what? I'd love to hear your philosophy, Thomas, on leadership as how you personally lead. I know what you try to help other companies do, and it might be the same thing. But when you are a leader of any effort, how do you think about it and approach it? And what are maybe one or two tips that you can give to the listeners when they
Yeah.
find themselves in that situation?
I've, done a lot of work to understand who I am as an individual. And I think for people that are new to leadership roles or who may be new, to the work environment and new to a role, I think it's always a learning process. What worked for me early on when I became a supervisor 6 months after I was hired with McMaster Carr. One of the individuals on my team had been working for the company for over 20 years. And I took her into a conference room and I said, let's be very clear, lady, I am not your boss. I am not your boss. And I need you in order to be able to be an effective leader. And from that moment on, we were like this
How did you
because
know to say
I
that,
don't,
Thomas?
my mother, I don't know. It was
See, that's where people
seriously.
struggle. Like, you were blessed to have a great family support system and friend support system, but there's a lot of folks, individuals out there that don't have that and don't
Yeah,
have that courage and self-awareness to be able to say that comfortably with someone,
yeah,
because that
yeah.
right there open up the doors of a building of a what sounds like a fantastic respect and colleague relationship, where you all had each other's back, but it's not something that's taught in school, right? And if you're not around and
Yeah.
to share the story like you're sharing with me, there are people out there that are fumbling when in
Yeah.
similar situations. So that's why I was curious on how did that happen for you? How did you learn
Yeah,
how to
I
do that?
really will say that I think that there's always been it goes back to respect
Yeah,
and knowing what you know and what you don't know and being transparent about that. So, knowing what your strengths are, knowing and being comfortable sharing what your strengths are and what they aren't or what you don't know so
right.
that you can learn from a place of authenticity and honesty. Because if you're trying to fake it, that doesn't work.
No,
People have
never.
done that for too long. And that's
That's
part of the
right.
problem. There is a gap between what they really know and their posturing,
Yeah,
and that gets in the way facts because
yeah,
there's a difference between truth and facts. So when
it
you're
is.
operating from facts, you're making better decisions. So not just your truth, but operate from facts on who you are and what more you need to know. Be
That's right.
open, be transparent, and be open to people being able to be your mentor, being your guide, even if you are leading them. I knew you've been here longer. You've done this job. This was how you started. And I will tell you, she ended up becoming a supervisor too, because I said, there's no reason why you should not be a supervisor. And I don't know if I should say her name, but she is one of my closest friends, and we are all going to get together for lunch or dinner soon. But I know that because I was like, you need to be doing this, and she said, okay, help me, and she ended up becoming a supervisor. And so when
Wow,
she retired, she was in a leadership position because she had
that's
everything else.
amazing.
So for me, it comes down to those things. What are your strengths? Identifying those for yourself, being honest, being transparent and open, and, you know, being able to be coached, find a mentor, and then do that for other people.
That's
Do
right.
that for other people. And when you find that combination, but you have to start off with your facts of who you are, not the truth, but the facts.
That's right, the facts.
And
Absolutely.
I think that as a coach, I really start with helping people to connect to themselves and then meet the people that they're leading where they are, not where they want them to be, but where they are.
Oh, I love that. And then I know I can't believe I'm blinking and time is running down, but there's one thing I really want to make sure we touch base on, which I really loved, is you had another piece of advice for the environment that leaders should create for their teams. And I want to make sure it gets out there because I think the listeners would love to hear you expound on it. I love the three safeties that you talked about in the environment. It was safety, creating an environment that has safety in learning, one that has safety in making mistakes, and one that has safety in providing feedback. And I was wondering if you would expound on why that's so important as a leader to provide a work environment that has those safety caveats, if you will, in it.
Yeah.
How does that help an organization?
Well, first of all, we all learn in different ways, especially, given the fact that we're understanding so much more about neurodiversity,
Oh,
the way
yeah.
people's brains work, which is beautiful and unique, and how we're able to then give people information based on where they are? Do we ask those questions
Yeah.
even when we start with new team members? What do you need in order for me to lead you successfully? What
Right.
don't I know that if I knew it, I could lead you better? That's actually the very first thing that I share with people about myself as their leader. And for them as a team member, what do I need to know about you? And what do they need to know about me? Creates so much more trust and honesty and relationship building. But
Yeah.
then they may tell you something about a learning ability or difference that they have that can help you dial into their ability so much more so that you're not giving them exactly what you would give everybody else. There's a difference between equity and equality, and that's a lot of it is just how people think, learn, and process information.
That's
So
right.
when we know that, we can meet them where they are. That's equity, right? So
Yes.
that's the first thing. That's safety in learning so that when they are learning, we're not judging them.
Yes.
based on their different learning style. I think
Right.
that breaks down information and processes so much faster than we realize because people are hiding, not wanting to tell you something so that you don't think that they're incapable.
That's
So we've
right.
got to break that. We've got to
That
break that.
yes.
And, really helping people to understand that as they are learning, as they're processing, as they're becoming who they are supposed to be at work, a lot of times when people are not getting their needs met from that sense of understanding, that sense of what it is that they're supposed to be doing, and they don't feel connected to the process, then they're not necessarily doing their best work. They're not showing up to be their best self. And as a leader, we start looking for, well, where's the gap? Where are they making a mistake? So all of that is a part of that process. And then
And the
also
feedback.
making sure, yeah. And when people start making the mistakes, how we give them the information. Are we using it for them to learn, or are we using it to point something out so that they're already going to feel bad? But
Yeah.
how do we give them the information in a way that allows them to learn and grow from it? Vice versa. Because here's the thing, not all of us as leaders are really great at giving or receiving feedback.
No, we're
So,
not.
and if we know that and we tell people, I don't like to give feedback because I always feel bad, and sometimes I don't necessarily, it doesn't land where it needs to be. Can you help me so that I can learn how to get better at it? We'll work at it together. You know how many people would say, absolutely. If you want
Yeah,
the truth now,
I
you
know.
ask them, they will tell you.
Yeah, you get the
They,
permission and then they'll
you give
tell
them
you.
that
Yeah.
permission and they will tell you. So I think a lot of times it's about being able to find that balance in safety for people to make the mistakes, to learn and grow from it, and then creating an environment where people also feel safe to be their authentic self. I think that that's
Yes,
important, not just in their how they show up, but are they showing up in a way that's authentic to them for their safety? When people are doing that, especially in today's world, because generationally things are changing
oh,
quickly.
absolutely.
And
Yeah,
the younger generation coming into the workforce has a very strong sense of their identity.
very strong.
Are
Yeah,
we able to meet them where they are? And are we creating a space for them to understand us as well? So
absolutely.
that part of it I think is important. So all of that safety is important in terms of leadership and getting people to be able to do their best work.
Oh, wow. Well, Thomas, we could just drop the mic on that one because that was amazing gems of knowledge. I hope my listeners out there took some great notes. If not, definitely check out the show notes because we'll have the points listed in there as well. And make sure you take this back to your teams. But Thomas, before we let you go, we've got to ask you our signature question, if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
And as you know, our firm commissioned a research study on leadership execution, as I mentioned, and there were 7 big buckets that are critical when executing any job or an effort or initiative. And we always ask our guests which of the 7 really resonated with them. All 7 are equally as important, and you use them at different times, obviously. But there's always usually one that our guest was like, wow, I can really resonate with that. And you were so kind to share that leading with a drive for results really piqued your ears. And for my new listeners out there, the way we define it is just as it sounds. It's being very tenacious and focused on ensuring your end goals or objectives are achieved, even if you have to pivot along the way. So, curious minds want to know, Thomas, why did leading with a drive for results really resonate with you?
I think that the human condition, meaning we're in these human bodies, we like to make a difference. I think, a lot of the apathy for people is, well, does it really make a difference? So, this whole robotic way of working and doing things without understanding that change will be necessary, we need change. Not everybody likes change, but it's good for us to be able to embrace it when it's done right and make a difference. So results are what we're always looking for. We're always looking to see, are we moving the needle? Are we
That's right.
making something better? Are we making our lives better? Are we making the lives better of the people that we reach, our clients, our customers, whatever it is. But as people, every day that we're working, it's important for us to feel like we're a part of something that makes a difference and that we understand it, we can connect to it, and we can see it happening. So we have to lead people in a way that allows them to feel that individually so that they can then be a part of the strategy of the organization so that that part of it in terms of results they're seeing it as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because that's what makes us energized about getting up every day, being part of
Yeah,
something bigger than ourselves and joining along with
absolutely.
others. It's just part of the human spirit.
It
Um,
is, but
Go
yeah,
ahead.
we're
I'm
just kind
sorry.
of lost. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I was
and
gonna
I
say.
think that the strategies that we use should be tailored to whatever project we're working on or what people need, and it's not always the same thing. So we have to be
Absolutely
careful and mindful of, does this work for everyone or can we use different ones for different people? A really great leader will understand that. And we have to give people an opportunity to know that not every strategy works for every person, and being
correct.
able to be flexible and agile and move how we need to. And that's how we are able to put more tools in our tool belt too.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Thomas.
Thank
Now,
you.
we'll have a ton of information in our show notes, your bio, where people can find you, and all that good stuff. But I always love to give a little time airtime for you to do the same. So, if people are interested in learning more about you and the services that your firm offers, where can they best find you?
Right now, LinkedIn. So under my name, Thomas Barnette. That's Thomas, B as in boy, Arnette. The Impaction website will be done by the end of this month for a very
Yay!
specific reason. So that will be www.impaxion.com. And you can also email me at Thomas B as in Barnett, at Impaxion.com. So Thomas B at Impaxion.com.
Awesome. We'll have all that information in the show notes. Probably by the time we air this, you might have your website all
Yes.
shiny and new for
Yeah.
everybody. At the very minimum, we'll have your LinkedIn and your email address so folks can reach out to reach and to learn more and to speak to you. But thank you so much for the gift of your time and being on today's episode. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you so much for having me today and
Oh, and
giving me this opportunity to share more with you and with your viewers and listeners. So thank you so much.
oh, you're so welcome.
Very grateful.
And we're grateful as well, Thomas. And thank you to also listeners for the gift of your time as well. We know that there are literally millions of other podcasts out there for you to listen to, and we don't take your patronage lightly. But all we ask is that you please like and subscribe to the podcast and share with just one friend, because by doing so, we will all learn how to better lead at the top of our game. Thank you so much, and see you next week. And that's our show for today. Thank you for listening to the Lead at the Top of Your Game podcast, where we help you lead your seat at any employer, business, or industry in which you choose to play. You can check out the show notes, additional episodes, bonus resources, and also submit guest recommendations on our website at leadyourgamepodcast.com. You can follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn by searching for the name Karen Rhodes, with Karen being spelled Karan. And if you like the show, the greatest gift you can give would be to subscribe and leave a rating on your podcast platform of choice. This podcast has been a production of Shockingly Different Leadership, a global consultancy which helps organizations execute their people, talent development, and organizational effectiveness initiatives on an on-demand project or contract basis. Huge thanks to our production and editing team for a job well done. Goodbye for now.